Hi, everybody. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Um, Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure of the society and the ways in which we learn and the ways that the education system teaches certainty and how this is actually fairly good for working a job. This is fairly good for working at an office and doing accounting. This is fairly good for working in a factory and clicking the same button 700 times in a row. This is very good for working in a slaughterhouse, where you simply stab and kill. And it's absolutely very good to be driving a car. But when it comes to poker, poker players have a absolutely fantastic imagination because the game is so complex, because there are an infinitesimal amount of variables. The less that man knows about poker, the more simple he will perceive it. As one's knowledge grows about poker, as one's understanding grows about poker, he understands how infinite this game is and how no situation can ever be compared to another situation. And the idea that it can be compared only comes from the way that we process information and from some of these softwares that have been downloaded within our operating systems. I want to share a very beautiful parable. There was a very wise philosopher, mystic. His name was George Gurdjieff. I've read a few of his books. Very good man. And this parable basically summarizes his work. So let me begin. Once there was a very rich magician who had a great many sheep. But at the same time, this magician was very mean. He did not want to hire shepherds, nor did he want to erect a fence about the pasture where his sheep were grazing. The sheep consequently often wandered into the forest, fell into the ravines, and so on. And above all, they ran away because they knew that the magician wanted their flesh and their skin, and the sheep did not like this. At last, the magician found a remedy. He hypnotized the sheep and suggested to them, first of all, that they were immortal and that there was no harm being done to them. And when they were skinned, that there was nothing happening. But on the contrary, it was actually very good for them. In fact, it was pleasant. Secondly, he suggested that the magician was a good master who loved his flock so much that he was ready to do anything in the world for them. And in the third place, he suggested that if anything were to happen to them, that it was going to not just happen to them, it would happen to everybody. And it would not happen on this day, not today. So there's no need to think about it. Further, the magician suggested to a sheep that some of them were not sheep, that if some of them worked hard enough and were good enough, that they would become lions, that some of them were even eagles, and to other them that they were other sheep they were men, and other ones they were magicians. After all of the cares and worries about the sheep over years, it eventually came to an end, and the sheep never ran away, and they quietly awaited the time that the magician would require their flesh and their skin. Man is basically a robot. There was a fantastic movie made called The Matrix. These movies are not made because someone had a random idea that had a great imagination and came up with a good storyline. These movies are made because this is the reality. Man is not born to be a robot. Man is a biological animal. But ordinarily, man lives like a robot and man dies like a robot. But man has the seed of a great flowering of consciousness. Something that has been spoken about for over 5,000 years in our history. But the reason why it doesn't happen and why this seed doesn't flower into a magnificent tree is because man is convinced that he is only a machine. Man has the possibility to become God. Jesus Christ said, "I and my Father are one." He was not speaking for only himself. Jesus had 12 disciples. He was not teaching the Bible. He was teaching man to remember his essence. Every man has the seed. But man does not flower because he's been hypnotized by the society, by the state, by the organized church, by the temple, by the mosque, by the vested interests. The society needs slaves, and man can only remain a slave if he listens to everything that he says and he doesn't question it. Your flesh and your skin are not for anybody else. They're not to be put into the factory so you can help some man with billions of dollars in his bank account fly private jets. You don't need to work so hard like a slave your entire life just to die and worry about whether or not you'll be able to pay your mortgage, whether or not you'll be able to get good medicine at the end, whether or not your children will be able to be educated. Everybody is absolutely perfect. Everybody is absolutely beautiful. But we've been hypnotized to believe that certain people in authority, the vested interests, are somehow superior. We are taught to believe that other human beings who have the potential to become God, who are not right now, but who have the potential, should only be slaves. Man is hypnotized from the time that he's born to believe that society exists in his favor. Now, this is the problem. We, as poker players, do not have the same opportunity to be blind and be rewarded for our blindness. The idea that the society exists in our favor is absolutely wrong. He's been brainwashed to believe that he is immortal. He's not. But he can be. Everybody can be immortal. But this hypnosis persists. And it persists because he cannot stop going, doing, getting more. But this is the program which keeps him from his freedom. Man lives only as a mortal being because he lives in the body, and the body is going to die. And whatever is born is bound to die, because birth is simply the beginning of the body and death is the end. Have you ever known anything more than the body? Have you ever had a taste of something that is deeper than your current experience? Do you currently know on some level that life is much deeper than what we're told it is? Have you ever experienced anything higher than just the body, deeper than the body? Have you ever seen anything which was even here before you were born? Have you seen that? If you have, then you are immortal. If you know your face, if you know that you are God, if you know your original face, there are a lot of religious traditions who always speak about the original face. What does that mean? Who are we? There is a great mystic named Ramana Maharshi who asked the question, who am I? But the brain wants to go, 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 go. It doesn't care. Who am I? Because it has the presupposition that it already knows. If you know your original face, the face that you had before you were born, then you know that you cannot die. Because it is only a dream, death. Have you ever experienced anybody else's death? Have you ever died? Do you know what death is? Or is death just an assumption? But man is not immortal. But he can be. But everybody lives surrounded by death. We are told that one particular life is greater than another life. Even within our own species, we have people who we believe are superior, and we have people who we believe are inferior. Certainly, this is the foundation of our society. Man lives surrounded by death because man thinks that he is the body. But the society does not want us to know our true essence. The society does not want us to know who we are. The society wants us to be robots and machines. But a poker player who wants to understand the human psyche, who wants to understand his opponents better than they understand themselves, for a player who wants to understand his opponent's ranges better than he knows his own ranges. It takes courage to be able to admit to oneself that there may be something deeper than the way I'm currently playing poker. The society only wants our brains and our bodies to do work for them. But our soul is very, very, very dangerous. Man has a soul. And the soul has always been extremely dangerous because when you are a man of soul, you are a free man. You cannot be controlled. You cannot be reduced to being a mere slave. Because man has an immortal soul deep within him. And man who is in touch with that has a much deeper commitment to existence, to totality, to God himself, and to truth. He doesn't give a fuck about these structures, these prison cells around us that we have been forced into from the time that we're born. He doesn't give a fuck if you're a Jew, a Christian, a Muslim, a Hindu, because he simply wants you to work and die. Who is he? He does not exist. He exists as a collection of people, as parts. But the body is surrounded by slaves. The body is a slave. But we are more than the body. Our minds are much deeper than this mere experience of clicking buttons and hoping that we have enough money and having emotions, negative emotions when we lose, as if our existence is threatened from the joy of poker. Do we recall how it felt when we were playing games when we were children? Do we remember the equanimity, the beauty, the sheer joy? We didn't have a reason to do anything. We simply did because life is beautiful. The soul is deeply individual. And the soul is interested in our freedom. The soul is not interested in being a slave. But the soul cannot be simply put and chopped up and thrown into a training site, thrown into a GTO trainer and have the ability to know what problems we need to solve. It takes consciousness, and it takes the ability to ask the right questions rather than simply going on the same program that we've been taught. Go, 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 go. If you start going into yourself, you go from being an extrovert into an introvert. You start moving inwards because the society is outside of us. In reality, it is outside of us. They cannot control us. You see, they cannot. They can beat us, but they cannot do anything to our mind. And we as poker players are born in a time where we are not physically being enslaved because of our nationality, because of our gender, because of our race. Now, the society may call the slavery of certain races very bad, and the way that we treated certain genders very bad previously, but it will always say right now is good, right now is perfect, keep working and then die. And then we will look back in 500 years and we will say, wow, really? Is that what they did? They were so cruel, but we don't ever want to see the cruelty which they commit upon us because it hurts us. Because we feel as though we don't have power when we make this admission. But in fact, this admission is the ultimate power because we see that we do have the seed to think for ourselves. We do have the seed to not be controlled by simply a river card coming and us getting angry. That has nothing to do with EV, but we have been trained to react in very irrational, very illogical ways because we have been programmed that things that don't matter absolutely matter. The society prevents us from going inwards. And the best way is to give you a half-truth, because a half-truth is very, very dangerous. So they give the pointer to God. God is absolutely the case. But God, the Word, is simply a finger pointing at the moon. God is not the finger, but God is the moon. So the word God is nothing to be attached to, because God is not contained in a word. God simply is existence, is totality, is you. The magician told the sheep that they were lions, and he even told them that they were immortal. But he was lying because he did not want them to discover the seed that they have inside of them. In fact, he even hypnotized them into believing that they were great magicians and humans, these sheep. He told them they were going to be here forever. Now, when you go to the church, are you really going inwards? When you go to the temple, are you really going inwards? When you go to your mosque, are you really going inwards? Be honest. The society has hypnotized us to believe that if we want to go inwards, we go to one of these religious places. But it is the most outside thing we could possibly ever have, because God is within all of us. God is not outside of us. But the society has made us believe that if we want to go inwards, we need to go and see the rabbi. We need to go and see the priest. We need to go and see the monk. And the priest, the monk, the rabbi is simply an agent of the society. And the priest is always, absolutely always against the mystics, absolutely always against the enlightened, always absolutely against you, because they don't want you to be free. And you are a mystic, and you are God. They are not in favor of God. In fact, they want you to be a slave. But they are ignorant and they don't know. A mystic, a free man, an enlightened man. Buddhism is a very good example of a religion that goes far deeper and is far truer than a religion like Christianity or Judaism or Islam. The mystic, the man, and I would say that all poker players are mystics at some level, if you're willing to expand your mind, because mysticism is not only something spiritual. Mysticism is something that is simply about expanding your mind, but it's only mysterious to one who has presuppositions as to how everything works. And when something is not the way that he thinks it should be, he fights it and he experiences lots of pain and he wants to change it. So the mystic is not mystic. The mystic is only mysterious because someone who does not understand himself cannot understand him. That translates in poker very deeply. And how does that translate in poker? If we understand why our opponent is playing the way he is playing, if we understand what he fears facing a check raise, we will be able to understand how he organizes his range. He will not know because he is controlled by his fear. And he may lie to himself and say, everything I do is justified, everything I do is good. But we know deep down that our opponents are lying to themselves. Because it's painful to know that we are exploitable and that our opponents might exploit it, but we still are going to make this decision. Even though we are uncertain, we think it will be high rev. Poker is the Wild West. There is no certainty. But we have been hypnotized, we have been trained into believing that the more knowledge that we collect, the more information that we collect about poker, rather than understanding the game, not starting from first principle and understanding why things happen. But we have been trained to simply collect knowledge about the game. This is not truth. This is not love. This is not freedom. Poker is love. Poker is absolutely the most brilliant, fantastic, beautiful strategy game that has ever been invented. It is magnificent. And it is uncomparable. But people live their entire lives who play poker as if they are blind men in the dark clicking buttons, but they don't understand what's going on. They don't understand why. And they have to convince themselves they do. I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing. So they go to study groups and try to look for approval. And they meet friends who say, yeah, you're doing the right thing. And there's this sort of agreement that we will each tell each other that we're doing the right thing so we feel better. We have the seed to expand ourselves, to understand the game. And playing these social games of looking at Pio Solver and taking a hand and saying, yes, I did a good job with this. Is this correct? We all know on a deep level that we're lying to ourselves. But it hurts very, very badly because this idea that we are doing something right and that we need to do something right only stems from our conditioning of believing that whatever we are doing is always wrong. The idea that we need certainty only arises from the training that we have received. It is the same as taking a mouse in a lab and shocking him when he eats food from the blue bowl and he does not eat food from the red bowl. And the father mouse will make it very clear that we do not eat from the wrong bowl. Now, which pill will you choose to take? The society has convinced man, but not poker players yet. Poker players may have already been convinced, but poker players have to use their brain in order to make a living, so their critical thinking, our capacity to reason, our capacity to be logical, our capacity to be intelligent, we cannot allow to be reduced into mere solutions for certainty. Because when we understand the infinite game that poker is, we cannot put any boxes. All boxes are presuppositions that we create ourselves because we are afraid. Because we have been taught that if we don't have everything in boxes, that there will be some sort of problem. Now, what does that mean? Now, just as many traditions were kept orally over the centuries, down the ages, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 years, the same is true in poker, and we all know it on a deep level. That the truth, the real information, you're not going to be able to buy at the store. On some deep level, we know that they're not giving us the truth in their training videos. At some level, we understand that the truth does not lie in PioSolver, and that the more we dig deeper into our own grave. But it's a very, very painful admission because we don't have any more certainty to cling on to. Now I'm going to talk about one of the most synthesized approaches to mind expansion a little bit, which is spirituality. Spirituality is a very fast-track method to expanding one's mind. It's not necessary. There are many paths to the top of the mountain. Some are more painful, but some get you there faster. Some are more efficient. Some are slower, but you walk and dance in the valleys and you see the trees, and when you get there, you know that you've always been there, that there was no summit, because you were the whole thing. So there are many different approaches, but I don't want to be limited to speaking about consciousness from the perspective of only logic, because there are many paths to be able to expand one's mind for poker and to start to see through these memorization tactics and our opponent's strategies and see why they make their decisions. Why are they so predictable? Why are they so concerned with being exploited, and by that fact they make themselves more predictable and easy to exploit? All of this comes from understanding the inner workings of our own mind. It does not come from studying PioSolver, but this belief that has been perpetuated by this society, that as we acquire more knowledge, this will make us stronger poker players. Absolutely not. Abraham Lincoln gave a very good quote He said, if I have 5 hours to cut down a tree, maybe he said 6, but I will paraphrase. I would spend 4 hours sharpening my axe. Abraham Lincoln was a very wise, beautiful man. Very intelligent. What does that mean? If we have a dull axe, we can hack away at this big redwood for a year, and it will be very inefficient. But if we sharpen our axe, we expand our mind. What will that do? How fast will we be able to chop the tree down? Will we be able to chop the tree down in a week? In an hour? In a day? Certainly, no one else will be able to compete as far as woodcutters are concerned. And if our mind has the capacity to expand and we have a deeper imagination, which is the most powerful thing, Einstein said that imagination was the most important thing that we have. He did not say that for any other reason other than its truth. We create our experience on the fly. Now, the secret to atomic energy has been hidden to the public for a very long time. And it's very intelligent because it would be very dangerous if the public had secrets and there was a maniac out there. So it's intelligent that the governments do not want atomic energy secrets going out. But actually, there are secrets for atomic energy of our soul and our mind. What does quantum mean? It doesn't matter if our water is 97.6 degrees Celsius. It's not going to boil. Unless we give it our absolute totality and we get to 100, we will not make that quantum leap. We will not be able to jump into the unknown. And it's scary. It's scary to have 1 foot here on the left and 1 foot in something that we cannot even define. We would say logically it would be right, but we have no idea what will be next if we take the next step. It can be very challenging, but there is great beauty in the transformation. Because we start to understand our opponent's psychology better than they understand their own. The danger with the poker community is that PioSolver is not wrong. Run It Once is not wrong. They're absolutely pointing to something true. The problem is that nobody can reach through a half-truth. And the person who travels half of the way will belong to neither the greatly successful, nor will he have actually been free as a poker player without all these contradictions about how to play that he's learned that force him into a box. He will be in limbo. In fact, not limbo. He will be in a prison cell. It will be a very strange situation. Because we will lose the old and we don't gain the new. And it becomes a very difficult chaos with all of this information that we don't know how to organize. In fact, we try to gain more information to be able to figure out how to organize it, and we are solving the wrong problem because we need the seed to be put in the garden, and we need to water it. We need to give it attention. We need to give ourselves love. We need to give ourselves permission to look at our game. We need to give ourselves permission to look at ourselves. We need to build a fence and get very good manure. And make sure that our seed is protected. And make sure that nobody corrupts our seed. Because even though the shell is hard, the innermost core of the seed is actually very fragile. And that is our mind in poker. Not that our mind is fragile, but it's very easy to take a half-truth and become very egoistic. Now we know. Now we know what we're doing. Now we have the answer. Pio solver. We're always going to win. But this is a presupposition. There's a reason why oral traditions have remained the most powerful method for teaching throughout millennia. Think about it. We could have simply given children books and told them to go on their own. There's a very important reason why teaching orally with a student remains the most efficient method for this practice. It remains alive, and it remains growing, just like a tree, just like a river, just like a frog, just like a buffalo. It remains absolutely open. But the problem is that the conflict solution mind in poker, it wants to close off that river. It does not want it to flow. It does not want to go into the ocean and drop. The drop has to fall back into the ocean. There is a state of consciousness called cosmic consciousness, where we will be able to understand all the poker players very deeply. Anybody on this planet that has an IQ of 90 and a reasonable life situation to be able to study and to be able to go inward, to be able to meditate, after they play a session, go meditate for an hour, think about the hands that I played. I sit for an hour, I think, what did this guy do? Why did he do that? And I don't look for a solution in Pio Solver. I think as a human being with my mind, why I don't just say go, 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 go. Because this training of go, 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 go has this idea that it is to our benefit. It is to the cashier's benefit to be able to get paid, but not to click buttons 10 hours a day, quicker, 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 so her boss is able to get a salary and pay for everything that he needs to pay. So he's able to pay taxes to the government, so the politicians are able to do whatever they would like to do. We are not slaves and button clickers. We are not button clicking in this game, and if we are, we have lost our way. We are very lost. Now, why have I chosen to speak on a method for attaining self-realization, a method for becoming enlightened, a method for expanding our mind through the religious path? I did this because I wanted to be able to give poker players, I want poker players to have the opportunity to understand that they are not reduced to a robot who memorizes Pio Solver. They are not reduced to a machine. This seed can become a magnificent flower. Does anybody know what Jesus was talking about when he said, "Look in the field and look at the lilies. They are absolutely perfect"? Does anybody know? Have we tasted the grandeur? Have we tasted the magnificence of love, of truth? So I will continue to make videos on these kind of topics. And I will continue to talk about different methods, reasons, and ways that we go deeper. The one important thing to remember is do not believe anything I'm saying, because nothing I'm saying is true. Everything I'm saying is a pointer to have us go inside ourselves. Everything I'm saying is nonsense. I'm absolutely contradicting myself. But everything I'm saying is pointing to something that is far beyond intellectual truth. We are talking about life, God, totality, existence. And that's only found by going inside ourselves. And that's only found by spending time thinking about poker, not by memorizing ideas about poker. But it's very painful to the Pio-Solver era, the ego structure, which wants to get more knowledge, once more, go, go, go. We don't give ourselves permission to relax. We don't give ourselves permission to unwind. We don't give ourselves permission to think deeply about why we make our decisions. Because our brain has been taught solution, solution, solution. No. The first thing to understand is that we have been hypnotized. And that we have to go through a dehypnotizing process. And the this is not, I use that word because it's a little bit strong and it's funny. But it's true, because our brains think about a problem and constantly go for solution. And again, this stops that river from flowing into the ocean. A child is absolutely intelligent because his brain is hyper-connected. You can go look on Google if you like, and you can look at a child's brain and how malleable it is and how free he is to make associations. His brain is not compartmentalized. We can look at it from the very logical perspective, not only the religious perspective, from neuroscience. What I'm saying is confirmed by neuroscience. The methods can be confirmed to attain self-realization, to attain truth, to attain awakening, to attain a free mind, to freely associate anything on the fly and understand anybody at any time. Maybe not deeply know, but we are able to understand at a much deeper level. Why? Not what. Because we are no longer, our gestalt is changing. Our gestalt is changing absolutely, because we are no longer looking for what. We are looking for why does the solver say that? Why did this opponent, who is a human being, not a robot. We are not playing against robots. And don't think that anything that you do is GTO. Because just because you make a play where you say, I bet 1/3 with this hand, and every single time that you have bottom set or top pair, you bet 2/3 instead, or you're on the turn and you say, yeah, normally I go 2/3 with this hand, but I'm going to go bigger this time because I have a good hand. No, this is a lie. But you see, the eye cannot see the eye. And our opponents that are doing this, we can exploit very easily if we know why they do what they do and if we understand how to exploit them. But it first takes courage to be able to admit that we don't always know. So I will continue to speak on these topics from a variety of angles. And if I contradict myself with words, remember that there's no words to be attached to. The whole point is to be able to move from this conflict solution way of thinking to being able to make free associations without any solution. So we are absolutely free. We are absolutely open to any potential possibility because every single argument always has a counter argument. But because it's painful and we're taught we need to find the right thing from the time we're born, from the time we're 3 years old. What do you want? What do you like? You have to identify with a certain color that you like. You have to identify with a certain way of being. I'm sorry, but poker is so much deeper. We don't have that opportunity. If we want to get good, we can watch people playing 25NL, 50NL their entire life and they will never get better. And they will go and study and they will believe that they are getting better because that's what they are telling themselves. But they have not solved the wrong problems because they don't see the seed that they have. So they are not watering their seed. In fact, they are not even taking that seed and planting it and even attempting to give it nourishment. They are blind to the fact. Because in order to admit the fact that we have this beautiful seed, first we have to admit that what we have right now can become better in the future. But it's hard to admit that it can be better in the future. Because the ego has to admit right now that, wow, maybe what I've learned is not everything. Maybe there's something more. I love you all so much, my friends, so much. I hope you all are kind to yourselves, and I love you all so much, really, so much. And I will speak with you all soon. Okay, goodbye for now.